Hello all, Solace here. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made the top part of my gown that can be worn without a corset. If you are interested in seeing how I did that, please stay tuned. As is, at this point, basically standard for me, I lost some of my footage, so unfortunately I don't have me outlining with the ribbon about where I want my panels to hit, but just know that step number one was figuring out how many panels I was going to need and where I'd want them to sit. I'm now just taking fabric and cutting it to a size where it can fill in those panels to be sewn together to make a basic mock-up. I cannot stress enough how crucial a mock-up is, especially if you have any kind of spinal curvature or medical condition, or even just a body that is not built quote-unquote standard. It is very important to make sure it's going to fit you how you want it to. I went through, I think, about 3 or 4 mock-ups, but I'm not going to show you all of them because that would just make this video far longer than anybody has any interest in watching. I also forgot to mention, I put on the mannequin the bra that I will be cutting up to use to make breast cups. You can, however, also just buy breast cups, but I had this old underwire bra that I couldn't wear anymore, so I just went through, ripped the underwire out, cut it up, and will be sewing that inside of the dress. However, at this stage, it is basically just in one piece on the mannequin to more or less show my actual bust size. Another pro tip for this stage is make sure you are making all of your panels far longer than they need to be, as it is much easier to cut down the bodice to be the length that you want than it is to add a panel to make it the length that you want. Now that all the panels are cut out, I'm just flipping them down and then pinning them together so that they can be sewn into a rough shape for the mock-up. Given that I'm going to be doing 2 sets of side lacing, I'm only pinning the front panels together and the back panels together, and then leaving the sides unfastened to be fitted on my body. Once it's all pinned together, I'm going to run it through the machine, then try it on to make any necessary adjustments, and I'll see you back here in just a jiffy. Now that I've confirmed that I've got it fitting about how I want, it is time to begin turning this mock-up into our actual pattern. Basically, what I'm going to do for this is cut away the seams, which will give me a pattern without seam allowance, and then I will have a basically perfect mold of my body to use for my lining and fashion fabric. It's always weird seeing patterns made for my body laying flat on the floor because so many of the panels are just so asymmetrical, it's kind of strange to look at. But that's how I know it's right, I suppose. Now it is time to turn our attention to that bra I mentioned earlier. First, I'm just going through cutting off the band and the straps, and then it's going to be time to remove the underwire, which is always a fun process. I'm just cutting a small slit at one end of the cup, and then carefully pulling it out. I probably could have left the cups connected. That actually might have made my job easier, but sometimes we don't think things through until it is just a wee bit too late. Notes for next time, I suppose. I'm then just going to try the pinned together lining on again real quick because I'm always a little bit paranoid that things are going to get to the end and then not fit. And then I'm just going to cut out the fashion fabric. I'm planning on flat lining this, so I'm also just going to put some temporary hold stitches on to hold the lining and the fashion fabric together. Once everything's been cut out, it is time to go through and pin those panels together. Once again, keeping only a front and back panel by the end of it to make sure I have spots for both of those panels of side lacing. Surprise, surprise, I lost another chunk of footage, but I inserted boning into the sides where the lacing is going to go, and then I added the eyelets to lace it up. I am now just going through and adjusting where the neckline is hitting, and I will probably be doing the same thing to the hem in this clip. If I am not, then I do later do that. Now it's time to go through and add that fun Bertha collar. I'm just taking roughly a rectangle of the same fabric that I'm using for the overskirt, and I'm going to be draping it into a little pleated collar. This was probably the most time-consuming step just because each pleat takes a good minute to get in, and then I did end up hand sewing all the pleats because I accidentally pinned it to the mannequin in such a way that I could not take it off without completely taking out all the pleats. I would recommend avoiding doing that if you can. I then just did the same thing on the other side, and once it was all hand stitched in place, this is what we ended up with. What's super nice about this style of bodice is that you can have it as boned or as unboned as you and your body want/can handle. It's great for if you're going somewhere where you don't necessarily want to wear a corset because maybe you're going to a convention or something and it's going to limit mobility in a way that's just inconvenient. Maybe you're like me and your body just can't currently handle corsets, so you want something a little bit more lightweight. I know mine, there's just a little bit right in the sides where the lacing is, and then there might be 1 or 2 pieces in the front just to help support the bust and keep any wrinkles from forming. But the back and, aside from the super lightweight on the sides, the areas that trigger my personal pain responses, I'm making very clear to keep boning away from. And I 10 out of 10 recommend this if you want something with a little bit more structure, but you don't necessarily want to go full corset. There's still quite a few things I intend to change or I'm not entirely happy with yet, such as pinning down the bottom part of the collar into a prettier shape. I'm going to be adding some lace trim. I'm going to be needle tatting a whole back panel of lace based off of the Horde logo from the show. But so far, all in all, it's turning out pretty good. And I look forward to seeing y'all next week. I hope you found this helpful. Otherwise, I will see you when I said next week, but probably not next week, when I get something done to the chance that it's worth posting again. In the meantime, this has been Solace. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.